Shalom, and welcome to a message for the Parsha for Parshat Tzav. Tzav opens with the very first order of business that would take place in the Holy Temple each and every single day. And that is to remove the ashes that was on the altar. An interesting thing, just like everything else in the Torah, which is not only telling us about what took place, for example, in the Holy Temple, or in such a situation or other situation, but everything in the Torah really has a lesson for us in our lives. Each and every detail. Otherwise, the Torah wouldn't tell it to us, and most certainly we wouldn't be required and encouraged to study it year after year after year after year. So there's a verse where it tells us how and what the Kohen did when removing these ashes. It says, quote, Upashat et gadav, he shall remove his garments, Vilavash begadim acherim, and he shall garb himself in other garments. And then he shall take out the ashes to, quote, the outside of the camp, meaning outside of the city limits. So the question is, how would we apply this to our lives? What is the lesson here? What is something that we can, what's the takeaway here that we can take for our lives, for our mode of service to Hashem? Well, if you think of it this way, why did he have to remove his garments? We know that whenever the priests, the Kohanim, did their holy tasks, their holy service in the holy temple, they were required to wear a special uniform as prescribed by the Torah. They were not only required, but it was imperative that they wear those four garments. And if they were not to wear those four garments, or not to wear them properly, then their whole service was rendered unfit, and they would have actually committed a sin. So why is the Torah tell us that the Kohen, the priest, has to remove his garments and put on other garments? Well, Rashi explains, based on the Talmud, that what the Torah is telling us, and he uses a metaphoric parable, he says, in the same garments, meaning in the same uniform, that you prepared the dish, that you cooked, you don't use that same uniform to serve the master. In other words, here he is removing the ashes, taking these ashes and carrying them out to the outside. It's almost like a cleanup job. It is not fit that he wear the same garments and when he is, quote, serving his master and when he's offering the sacrifices. What could we learn from this? It tells us that there's something very, very special in the entirety of Judaism. You see, one can ask, if I want to serve Hashem, I guess perhaps it would be something of virtue to serve God by offering sacrifices, by doing those special mitzvot. But those mitzvot that are kind of involved with the nitty-gritty, with maybe sometimes even filth, or they're not so to speak, the most, astoundingly, impactful mitzvot, or perhaps they're even such type of mitzvot that involve sometimes things that are lesser holiness or mundane. Maybe perhaps I shouldn't pay too much attention to it. Maybe perhaps those are not important. Maybe I should just focus all my energies, all my attention on those mitzvot which are of greater virtue, of greater value. The Torah teaches us no. The same Kohen, the same priest who, quote, prepares the dish or cleans up the kitchen could be the very same Kohen who actually serves the master. In other words, the argument would have been, let two different people do this. And Hashem is telling us no. Hashem is telling us no. It's the same Kohen, the same priest. Yes, there has to be a change of garments. That's true. And think of garments in a sense as a change of attitude or to be in a different mode psychologically. But as far as doing the service, every Kohen is fit and is encouraged and is privileged to do all the services, whether it's, quote, preparing the food, taking out the garbage, so to speak, or it is actually offering it, serving it to the king's table. And this is important for us because the truth is that in this sense, each and every mitzvah, from the greatest mitzvot of fasting on Yom Kippur to the 10 Commandments to those simple, mitzvot, the day-to-day things which we don't even pay much attention to, they all, in sum total, have one common denominator. And that is the most important thing of all. And that is that we have another opportunity yet to serve God. Whether it is, for example, as stated in the Code of Jewish Law, even the order in which we tie our shoes, put on our garments, or the fact that we wash our hands after we leave the bathroom, or whether it is fasting on Yom Kippur, eating matzah on Pesach, in the sense, coming from the perspective, the virtue that it's all a service of Hashem. Like it says here, sometimes you change your garments, but it's all done by the same Kohen. That is all, in the sum total, our opportunities, our privilege, our merit to be able to serve Hashem in each and every way of our lives.